Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, so Eden Zero, chapter 121 is out, and Hero gave us some amazing, like incredible moments throughout the entire chapter between these characters. Really, you can break this chapter down into, I want to say, about three parts. The beginning part with Rebecca, the middle part with Homura and Shiki, and then the ending with Wise and Hermit. And in each three sections of this chapter, we had some, amazing character development. When it comes down to Rebecca basically just finding out new things about her own self, Shiki and Homura basically furthering their relationship, whether it be friendship or whether it actually might be a little bit of romance there, we don't know yet. And when it came down to Hermit and Wise, again, the same thing. The two of them basically deepening their relationship while they're on this dangerous mission of trying to stop the virus. Every part of the chapter felt important, and even though there wasn't any action in the chapter at all, you didn't feel like you were missing out or that you wasted your time reading it because of the character development that Hero actually put forward in the chapter. So getting into the actual chapter, we actually have the chapter starting off with a cover page of Hermit and Wise, and it looks like the two of them are a little bit flirting. Hermit's, just holding on to, or like leaning over Wise, hugging him from behind. And again, it looks like the two of them are a little bit flirting, kinda. It's like more shipper fuel for shippers out there. And this cover page actually kind of hints towards a moment later at the end of the chapter between the two characters, but we'll get to that in a second. Then we jump right into the beginning of the chapter, and we're picking up at the end of the fight between Rebecca and Brittany that we had from the last chapter. And we see Rebecca basically just, she's putting on new clothes. Apparently that electronics store that they found a vacuum in also sold clothes, makes sense. But anyway, she's putting on clothes. She tells Pino, of course, she's going to end up leaving money behind. Happy's still knocked out for some reason. But in this moment, Rebecca, again, just like how she did in the last chapter, shows that she's not exactly the idiot that we've been kind of seeing her as since the beginning of the series. She actually does have a brain, and she actually is pretty smart. Because in the beginning of the chapter, after realizing from the last chapter that her ability with Cat Leap is not only to basically move super fast or go back in time to different timelines, she also has the ability to go back, whether it be a minute or two or a moment or two. And now that she knows this, she decides to test out that ability. So she has Pino write down a word on a notepad, and then she tries to guess what the word is. And then after she guesses wrong, Pino tells her that, of course, the word is human, because obviously that's the only thing Pino cares about is humans. To want to become human, that's her biggest dream. If she ends up getting a wish at the end of the series, that's obviously what her wish is going to be. But like I said, she writes down the word human, and Rebecca gets it wrong. And then she uses her cat leap ability to go back a minute. I think she said a minute or 2 minutes. And she has Pino do the same thing again, write down a word, and then she basically lets her know that, hey, the word is human. So yeah, Rebecca now knows exactly how her cat leap ability works when it comes to going back in time just a few moments or up to a minute or two. And she actually ends up doing something dumb, which I guess you can argue is not exactly dumb, but at the same time it is. Because after she guesses the word correctly the second time and basically figures out exactly how her ability works, she decides to test it out one more time. And then once she does it again, her body actually has a bad reaction to it where she gets a splitting headache. Like, it seems like her body's about to break apart at the seams. And then we can see on her face cracks start to develop. Now, we have no idea what that means because a moment later, after she basically calms down for a second, the cracks disappear and her skin goes back to normal. But we can see the adverse effects of basically using Cat Leap too many times in succession, because technically that second leap that she was doing in the chapter would have been technically her third leap back in time. So yeah, Rebecca now knows pretty much the mechanics behind this new ability, which she ends up calling reverse in this chapter. And basically what it comes down to is that she can only go back about 2, maybe 3 minutes at the most. And once she goes back in time, she kind of gets put in a set point, kind of like a quick save moment, like where you're basically, or a checkpoint in a video game, and she can't go back past that point. Now, obviously, with her bigger cat leap ability, which allowed her to travel to a different timeline, which she ended up going back a few weeks when she did that, when she was under the capture of Dragon Joe. Obviously, that basically just goes past what this reverse ability can do, but she still has no idea exactly how that works. But she has pretty much mastered reverse, which basically, like I said, she can go back about 2 to 3 minutes. She has a certain checkpoint that she can't go past, and she can only use it maybe 2, maybe 3 times before it gives her some very adverse effects, like I said, with the skin cracking and the splitting headache. So now she knows that this ability, while it is very powerful, has a limit to it, and she should use it sparingly. Now, before I go on to the next part of the chapter, I do want to mention again how this chapter and the last one showed exactly how resourceful Rebecca can be, and how she's not exactly just the ditzy character that we kind of been expecting of her since the beginning of the series. Because, when she showed up, she was originally just kind of like the kind of idiotic, kind of ditzy, blonde character. But in these past few chapters, she actually has shown exactly how intelligent she can be and how she's able to basically handle things on her own without having to rely on Shiki or Homura or Wise or anyone else. Okay, so then we cut over to Shiki and Homura, and I don't know what Hiro is doing. I don't know if he actually is shipping these two characters, because these last two chapters, he's given us a lot of great moments between them that are very much ship fuel. I don't know if he's actually just doing it on purpose, because obviously he knows that his fans like to ship his characters, or if he actually is setting up the ship between these two characters, which wouldn't be that surprising, because he likes to drop ships out of nowhere. I mean, dating back to the Evergreen and Elfman ship, that came out of nowhere, but fans fucking loved it. So I don't know if he actually is trying to ship these two characters. I know most people, I think, ship Shiki and Rebecca together. But if it came down to it, Homer and Shiki, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Especially after the moment they had in this chapter. Because, alright, we get this moment where the two of them are basically just sitting down, or Shiki's actually just sitting down behind a tree waiting for Homer to get done taking her bath. Because obviously due to the fact that she's weak to heat and she was surrounded by flames in the last chapter, or the last few chapters, and she was getting attacked by Mora's hot glue attacks. Her body's overheated. She needs to cool down so that she'll be able to fight in perfect form going forward. And so she's taking a bath, right? And while she's there, she's relaxing. She's, having a good time, taking her time to enjoy herself. And it's in this moment where she's basically relaxing and has her guard down that she accidentally asks Shiki a question that she didn't mean to. And what she ends up asking him is, hey, how important are we to you as your friends? Which, of course, Shiki answers, what are you talking about? You guys mean the world to me. You're my crew. And then Homura drops the big question, which is, she asks Shiki, alright, so we're on a journey to find Mother, so that she can grant our wishes. But what happens if when we get to Mother, she can only grant one wish? And then Shiki had a response to that question that not only made me respect him more as a character, but as the captain of the crew. Because, alright, and I want to get this right, so I'm actually going to read it straight from the chapter. He says, if it comes down to that, then I don't want a wish. My friends are more important. This man's whole goal, his whole journey, has been to find Mother so that he can get his wish granted. And yet he said right here in the chapter that if it comes down to it where only one person can get a wish, then he will let anyone else in the crew have it over himself. He is 100% fine with not having his wish because more than anything else, more than getting his wish granted, he cares about his friends. And you have to respect that. In an adventure-like manga like this, where a character has a goal and basically the goal is the main point of the entire series, if they are willing to put that end goal to the side and basically just throw it away for their friends, for their crew, then you have to put a respect on them. You have to respect that level of resolve and that level of commitment to their friends. And this moment right here is actually, in my opinion, kind of like the reverse moment of all those moments we had in One Piece, where multiple members of the crew, I think Zoro, Sanji, pretty much most of the crew at some point has stated that they were willing to give up their entire goals in order to make sure that Luffy ends up becoming the Pirate King. Now, as far as I'm aware, I don't think we actually ever had a moment where Luffy says that he would give up being the Pirate King in order to help out his friends. I mean, we've seen it through his actions, but I don't think we ever had a moment where it's stated. But I like the fact that Shiki, being the captain of the crew, stated right here, right now, that if it comes down to it, he is giving up his dream so that his friends can have a chance of reaching theirs. Now, that moment doesn't actually end up lasting long because they end up sending, like, I want to say 3 or 4 people with high ether gear abilities coming towards them. So they immediately start to get up and basically try to get out of there before they end up getting into a fight that they don't want. And that's when we end up cutting over to Orc. And we end up finding out that Orc, Brittany, and Mora were not the only team on Foresta. There are apparently there's at least 2 teams. They were Beast Team 6, and then he ends up getting in contact in the chapter with Beast Team 1, which, by the way, each 3 of these characters look crazy. I am terrified of seeing what they can do because, I mean, Mora and Brittany almost defeated Homura and Rebecca. Granted, their abilities were basically, Rebecca and Homer's abilities were at a disadvantage to Mora and Brittany's abilities, but still, they already almost defeated those 2 characters. And Shiki had to go into his overdrive form in order to defeat Orc. And then you got these 2 characters who, in this chapter, state they are the strongest of the Beast teams. So they are leaps and bounds apparently stronger than the 3 characters they already fought against. So again, it is a very terrifying idea that, Shiki and them are going to have to fight these characters. Now, granted, maybe their abilities will actually be a better match for these characters than they were against the other 3, but still, it's still a terrifying idea that they'll have to fight them. And I'm hoping by the time they actually do end up having to fight them, we'll have Laguna, Klein, and Jin back on her or back on Foresta so they can actually help out in the fights, because maybe they're going to actually need to tag team some of these characters in order to get the victory. And you know what? Actually, speaking of those three characters, we actually cut over to them when they're in space, and pretty much all we see of them is they're helping out Wise and Hermit, basically being their guides and kind of giving them cover fire as they try to make their way to the satellite. That's pretty much it. We don't really get much from them in this chapter. We really haven't been spending that much time with those three characters at all in this arc, which is kind of disappointing. I'm hoping we get more of them as the arc continues, but yeah, we really only spend a little bit of time with them in this chapter. Now, we do get a lot of time, pretty much the entire last, I want to say, 3 or 4 pages of the chapter is devoted to Wise and Hermit, and we get basically a building of the relationship, kind of, going off of the cover image where we kind of get the hints of a ship between the two of them. We see the two of them kind of playing in the chapter, like they're in a serious moment where they're like, all right, we're on a mission where we have a ticking clock going on right now, but at the same time they're being kind of playful and jokey with each other. We even get this moment where Hermit pretends to be affected by the virus in order to scare Wise, and she's just kind of playing around with him. But she does actually kind of mention, hey, if I get affected by the virus, don't hesitate to put me down. Like, she has a very serious moment where she tells him, hey, if I get affected, kill me. And instead of doing that, and again, kind of hinting towards the idea of a ship between these two characters growing, at the very least, budding friendship, he basically tells her instead, if you end up getting affected by the virus, I'm just going to use my ability to basically override you and turn you back to normal. Which is very sweet, and I think is 100% going to end up happening by the end of this arc. I think that, especially when we end up finding out at the end of the chapter, I think based off of that ending, we're going to see Hermit get affected by the virus, and Wise have to basically reprogram her in order to basically turn her back to normal. Now, what's mentioned multiple times in the chapter is that Wise is a novice programmer. He has no idea how to really reprogram anything, and he kind of just goes off a feeling when he's rewriting things with his ability. So, it's going to be a hard battle for him, but obviously if Hermit ends up getting affected by the virus, he's going to end up finding a way to use his ability to turn her back to normal, which could also lead to great character development for him when it comes to abilities wise, because then he will basically figure out exactly how to program with his abilities. And then we got that ending, that creepy ass ending. Alright, so they go through the satellite, they get to the main hub or the main room where they need to basically reprogram the virus from, and who should be waiting for them there but the fucking scientist who, during the 2 years that Hermit was working with humans and was tortured, was the one fucking torturing her. And apparently Ziggy, I don't know if Ziggy did this or if he did it to himself, but the guy has turned himself into an android robot freak. I mean, it's terrifying what he ended up turning himself into at the end of the chapter, and I have no blame on Hermit for being as scared as hell by the end of the chapter when she sees him, because dude looks creepy. But yeah, it's pretty much where the chapter ends, where we end up finding out that he is the one who's been programmed the virus real time and basically evolving as it goes. And apparently Ziggy told him that Hermit would actually be showing up to stop him. So more than likely he has traps laid out for her, and more than likely will take advantage of those traps to basically corrupt her with the virus. But obviously he couldn't have planned for Wise, because Ziggy didn't know anything about Wise, he doesn't know what his abilities are. So he couldn't have planned for him. So Wise will be the key factor to basically taking out this guy and saving Hermit from her trauma. But that is pretty much all that happened in the chapter, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.